The reason why we mainly do research is to cover the missing information or gaps which haven't yet been covered. Otherwise, there is no research if something has already been done and has already been the gaps have already been covered. So today we are looking at research gaps and we are trying to see how you can identify the research gaps and how you can cover those research gaps. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. This is Malcolm Shambana, your usual research method presenter. Enjoy the video. Thank you. So your usual research method presenter, as usual, as I earlier on identified myself as Malcolm Shambana, you can catch me on +260 977 488 442. The 260 is a Zambian code number. So if you are calling or trying to get hold of me, you need to include the +26. If you are within Zambia, you can call me on 0977, same number 488442. You might as well subscribe to my YouTube channel to view more videos on research. You might as well like the videos. You might as well ask questions within YouTube, or you can still reach me through WhatsApp or call me through WhatsApp, whichever system you are comfortable. So, our learning objective today is by the end of this session, you should be able to discuss what research gaps are. You're also able, you should be able to explain types of research gaps as well as identifying research gaps. These are the skills you acquire after this short but important session. What is a research gap? A research has questions that have to be answered, of course, or a problem that has to be resolved. However, it's not all questions you are going to answer in your research, or is it that you are going to resolve all the problems within your research topic? There are some issues which are still going to remain outstanding, just like other researchers, they can't answer all questions or resolve all problems related to their topic. There are still issues which remain unresolved. So those issues which remain unresolved are what we call research gaps. Unanswered questions, unresolved problems give rise to research gaps. So as a new researcher, maybe in a particular topic, you have to develop an understanding of these research gaps. Otherwise, if you don't deal with research gaps, you might be dealing with work already done by others, which may become a duplication and at the end of the day, irrelevant. So it's important before you do your research, you understand the research gaps which are there, as well as discuss other means, other specific gaps within the research which you would wish to tackle. It's very important that research gaps are identified. So this now brings us to the types of the research gaps which you may encounter in your academic research. Mostly what we are discussing here relates to academic research. There are several research types of research gaps, but what we are going to discuss are the main types you are going to find in academic research. There is contextual gaps and methodological gaps. So under contextual gap, or what is contextual gap? Contextual gap discusses existing literature and assesses what has not yet been discovered or covered, let me put it that way. So under contextual gap, you are going to discuss the existing literature in a different context of what is there. For example, if your colleague has studied maybe causes of gender-based violence, you may decide to discuss effects of gender-based violence. There, you are discussing it in a different context. It may be the same topic, gender-based violence, but you are discussing it in a different context. The content which is there is slightly different. It's like looking on at the other end of the coin. So the under contextual gap, we can have geographical location. Please, we have to correct that. It's not geographical local. It's supposed to be geographical location. It may relate to a study being done in different location. For example, a country, maybe a study on effects of garbage collection in Australia was done, and you want to do it in Zambia. Of course, there is a research gap there because it might pose different results due to differences in geographical location. The results which may be affected may be as a result of having different policies in those different locations, maybe having different social standings, having different cultural beliefs. So you definitely going to expect different results, which from studies done in Australia and studies done in Zambia, for example, because of due to differences in culture policies, maybe of the even the ways of understanding things. So geographical location can pose a research gap. Population type, a colleague may study the the reaction of females as a result of divorce. There may be a gap since that colleague was specialized in female. There's definitely a gap. How about males? You can go ahead and study the reaction of males after divorce. There is also time period when the study was done. For example, if somebody studied the gender-based violence in Chivoria in 1990s, definitely the study done in 2025 is likely to pose different results from the one done in 1990s. There is that time period research gap. So, like I said, there is contextual gap and methodological gap. So, what's under methodological gap? Methodological gap discusses the difference in methodology used by existing literature. For example, especially the methods they used or intended to be used in the current study. So you look at the difference between what the method methodology which was used by the previous study, and you also assess the method which you are intending to use. Those differences may result in methodological gaps. For example, I'll use the structure of the research onion. If you haven't seen the research onion video, um, please, you can go ahead and look at the research. It's among my videos. You can look at the research onion methodology video. You you can still come back, and that's when maybe you can understand even better what I'm explaining here. So when you are looking at what other researchers have done and you are trying to see the research gap, you may look at the method, the research philosophy they used. They might have used the interpretivism or positivism or pragmatism. You may decide to use a different method. If they used interpretivism, you may decide to use positivism or pragmatism. As long as you are the method you are using is different, or the method you intend to use is different, then there's a research gap there. Unless all researchers have covered the same topic, same method, then there's a no gap there. But as long as, for example, if in your literature review indicates that all researchers or on that particular topic, all researchers focused only on interpretivism, then there's a gap of positivism and pragmatism. So you can decide to do the same research, but you take it in a positivism research philosophy. Please go and review the video on the research onion. You'll find it among the videos. It will make it easier for you to understand the method I'm using here. You can also look at the research approach they use. Is it inductive, deductive, or abductive? If they use the inductive, it's the same topic, everything is the same. You may decide to use a different method. You may decide to use deductive. The research results may differ, or abductive. If they use the deductive, the research result may differ because of the method. If they use the qualitative, that's under research method, you may decide to use quantitative. The research results may differ. As long as they use a different method from what you are doing, from what you intend or wish to do, then there must be that research gap. If they use any of the two, you may decide to use mixed method to cover that gap if the mixed method hasn't yet been used. You may look at also the research strategy which they use. Was it a case study? Was it an experiment? Was it grounded theory or was it ethnography? You may decide to use, if they use a case study, you may decide to use ethnography, which studies how people live and all that, maybe culture related. Or you may use the grounded theory, where you go deep down to gather insight. Just you go with a level head and biased just to gather information which has let me say little backing. You may use something different. Or they might have used a cross section time horizon. You may use a longitudinal time horizon. There is a topic on cross section and longitudinal time horizon. I think I also discussed this in detail under the research onion. Please look for that video. You'll find it under my YouTube channel. It will give you guidance. They might have used a different data collection, data analysis method. You may decide to use a different method for analyzing the data. Then there might be a gap. Maybe no one has used a particular analysis method which you are going to use. Then there is an existing gap. Even the sample size may differ. The tools which you may use, maybe somebody used an interview to gather qualitative information. You may decide to use a focus group, which may give you different results. So there are all these different methodological gaps which may arise within your research. These research gaps are the ones which you can discuss even in your literature review conclusion. You may highlight them in your literature review conclusion to cement or solidify the point why you did that research, or why you have, if it's a proposal, why you have to go ahead with your research proposal and your research plans. So how do we identify these research? There are several ways in which you can identify the research gaps. Um, Research gaps can be identified by reading literature of other researchers. There are several literature. You can read articles, you can read journals, you can read theses, even other reports, several reports which you can use. So when it comes to academic, it will make your life easier if you are able to read the abstracts. If you can read the abstract, which is a summary of the entire research, a good abstract will explain everything which has been done in the research. And this is done to establish the context and the methodology of that particular research. So within that research, you are able to identify if there is a gap in context or there is a gap in methodology within that abstract by just reading the abstract. So you don't have to go through the whole document. Otherwise, because we are looking at you may be covering over 20 plus literature. And how much time would it take for you to read each literature? It will take you a long time. So it's best you read the abstract, which is a summary of everything which has been done in that project, and you'll be able to identify the context gaps and the methodology gaps. You can also go within the document and read the study limitation. Study limitation definitely gives rise to research gap. It will show you where the researcher was limited in their study. So you might take advantage of that limitation. If you're able to overcome that limitation, then well and good. You'll be able to cover that gap. Then you can also read the further study recommendations, which are usually in the conclusion part of the research. These are direct suggestions of research gaps from other researchers. They are actually telling you what needs to be done, where they feel there is a research gap and they expect some more research to be done. Hope you enjoyed this short session on research gaps. If you have any questions, please, you can text me on WhatsApp. You can text on my YouTube channel. I'll be able to respond to that. Thank you for listening.